Hey, so I figured I wouldn't probably get to talk to you much this weekend because it's crazy busy. Yay. So anyways, I figured I'd read you a little bit more. Yeah, forgive this whole thing. Man, if you could send smells over YouTube, oof, you wouldn't be watching this anymore, we'll put it that way. Yay, gym, fitness, all that other fun stuff. Alright, anyways, so where I left off. Oh, I had it open. Oh, there it is. Okay. So now here Sarah was, several weeks later. She was tired from the long days and nights. Her hair was pulled back in an uncomfortable and ridiculous style that Delia assured her was the newest thing at court. How Delia knew this, since she rarely wandered within 10 miles of the palace, Sarah didn't know, nor did she ask. Her dress, though rather pretty, even Sarah would admit to this, was rather tight, particularly across her torso. She knew this was to make her figure appear to an advantage, but she really did not see the point. Weren't these men supposed to impress her, not the other way around? The combination of exhaustion and discomfort, I can't speak, along with the general dread of men who were to be paraded before her, had left Sarah in a rather irritable mood. She fought to wipe the scowl off her face as the door opened and her first suitor walked in. She couldn't hold the surprise from her face when a man her father's age came through the door. He introduced himself as Sir Keegan and claimed to be honored to meet her. 15 minutes into the conversation, Sarah saw the lie in his earlier statements. Really, it took that long? Come on. Sir Keegan was a man of accomplishment, and he made sure Sarah knew about every single one of said accomplishments. From the successful battles he had commanded during the Nautic Wars, which she couldn't help but recall occurred before she could properly walk, to his great skill in the latest royal hunt. While Sarah was impressed with his military prowess, I really can't speak. This is a trend. I really shouldn't be doing these. But whatever. Though his age still disturbed her. Sir Keegan was far less impressed with Sarah's own accomplishments. He dared not show it in an obvious way, but when Sarah mentioned her in-depth studies involving geology and mythology, a blank look came over his face. It vanished almost immediately, but it had been there, and Sarah knew then that this man was not the one for her. The next few suitors did not fare much better. Devon, the second son of a baron, I kind of went too far ahead. Devon, the second son of a baron, was a handsome man. Indeed, for a few hours Sarah had been quite taken with him. Then tea time rolled around. When Delia had accidentally spilled some tea on Devon's lap, instead of accepting Delia's apology and offer of a towel, he snapped at her and admonished Sarah for choosing such a clumsy lady-in-waiting. No, a man incensed by such a small mishap most certainly would not make a good king. Or a good husband. I mean, come on. We're all a little klutzy sometimes, especially after anyways, I'm going back to this. Joseph, a young lord, was not much better. He possessed the same charm that Devon had exuded at first, but he lacked Devon's temper. Unfortunately, a temper was not the only thing Joseph lacked. Although at first Joseph seemed to know a basic outline about Sarah's situation, he seemed to lack any insight on how to go about breaking the curse. Upon seeing Joseph's blank face when she explained that Aphrodite was the goddess of love and sex, Sarah surmised that anything Joseph knew had been told to him by an adviser before his departure from the capital. His ideas were not his own. A man like that certainly could not hold his own against an ancient goddess. Christian, the son of a Duke of Salis-Bartel, wow, I don't know how I made up that name. Christian, the son of the Duke of Salis-Bartel, was even worse. Although very handsome, it was clear within a few minutes he did not truly wish to be there. From his many bitter references to his father, Sarah surmised that he was here on his father's orders. Although Sarah was not looking for a power-hungry man for a husband, she knew that an unmotivated ruler may be an even worse option. And so the next few days went. Sarah met various suitors, but all of them possessed flaws that made her deem them incapable of both breaking her curse and someday wearing the crown. Finally, Sarah saw her last suitor out onto the road. Sir Matthew was an unimpressive man on all accounts. However, what really finalized Sarah's resolve that he must go was the fascination Delia's brooch seemed to hold for him. That and the fact that his eyes did not seem to stray from Delia's chest even after she had removed the brooch. Perv. Sarah went back inside and sank into a seat by the fire. She let out a defeated sigh. Would she ever find someone who would care about her more than her position and riches? It seemed unlikely, considering the men her father was sending. Sarah heard a noise at the door and saw Delia hesitating at the threshold. Sarah cracked a small smile. You have no idea how happy I am to see you instead of another one of those idiots. You'd think they'd be better charmers if they would hope to one day rule a country. Sarah paused her diatribe when she saw Delia squirm. What? Well, actually, there is one more man who arrived a bit late. Sarah left the room before she had a chance to finish, but Delia was not to be ignored. I think you should give him a chance, Delia called while trying to catch up. I know you're tired and fed up with the king's silly politicians. I get it. But this one seems different. Almost sweet in his own way. At this, Sarah became angry and whirled around to face her friend. Sweet, is he? Are you sure you're just not sweet on him? For the past few weeks, all I've seen were men who have attempted to sweet-talk me. I thought you'd understand how tired I am of it all. Sarah took a deep breath and tried to check her rising temper. No more. I'm done with it. I'm not going to find love in this manner. In fact, I'm beginning to wonder if I'm ever going to find love at all. Sarah, you don't mean that, Delia whispered. Oh, yes, I do. I'm just not like you. I'm not bubbly. I'm beautiful and carefree. I don't have men staring at my chest. I'm cynical and I'm cursed. I suppose my father's right in trying to marry me off. I'm nothing but a burden. Tears were now streaming down Sarah's face. She took Delia's shock as an opportunity to escape down a side corridor. She's being emo. You're so wrong, Delia said as she watched her friend retreat. Both girls were unaware that their exchange had been witnessed by another, a young man with wide blue eyes. Good evening, Tracy, Sarah said as she opened the door to the stables. How do you fare this fine night? Tracy's eyes looked up at Sarah and saw traces of dried tears. Her eyes were filled with concern as she moved softly at Sarah. Sorry, I just love Tracy. Oh, everything's fine. Don't you worry. I got through the rest of the suitors today. What a bunch they were. Sarah got up and tried to make herself seem busy by lighting the lanterns. Anything to get away from Tracy's all-knowing eyes. Tracy nudged her from behind and softly moved again. Her concern was even more evident. I don't understand it, Tracy. All these men are horrible. They all said the same line. That was beautiful. What a fine lady. How clever a queen you'll make. Sarah didn't even take it into consideration that she could have actually been telling, or that they were actually telling the truth. Yet I could not hold a decent conversation with one of them. At first I thought it must be the men my father was sending. Ambitious fools. But now I wonder. Father would not want a rich simpleton to take the crown. He'd want a strong, clever man, one of actual merit. Maybe there's nothing wrong with these men. Maybe there's something wrong with me. Sarah went cold as this new realization hit her. Maybe it was fate that she took the rock all those years ago. Maybe fate meant to separate her from a world that she clearly did not belong to. Tracy nudged up against Sarah again, and Sarah buried her face in Tracy's warm folds. It's definitely the men. Sarah jumped to her feet at the sound of a strange male voice. Strange because she doesn't really see males that often, or I don't know why it's strange. I don't picture it as strange, so I don't know why I wrote that. Sorry, segue. I do a lot of segues. That's me. Who are you? Show yourself. Sarah tried to keep her voice in check. Whoever this was had observed far too much already. There was no need for him to see any more weakness shown by the Crown Princess. The figure stepped into the light, and what a figure he was! His strong stature appeared relaxed, although it was evident that he was not one to be trifled with. Blonde hair fell into wide blue eyes, which looked as though they must often dance with excitement, although they were filled with concern at the moment. "Forgive me, your Highness. I am Lord Michael. I meant to wait until tomorrow to introduce myself, as your lady-in-waiting suggested, but when I heard your voice while exploring the grounds, I couldn't help but speak. I don't know you very well, but I know those men sent by the king. Pompous men, all of them. How they deceived the king I'll never know, but they certainly found a way. If I were you, I would not feel so bad for being at a loss when conversing with those men. In fact, with all due respect, Highness, I would be somewhat alarmed if you had found their dialogue engaging." Lord Michael said all of this rather quickly, a boyish eagerness showing in his features. She turned her head at his informal manner. With the exception of Delia, such frankness irritated her. But it seemed to suit this Lord Michael. "So you're the one who arrived late. Reliability is a quality admired in a ruler, a quality you're most certainly lacking." Wow, she sounds difficult, like somebody else I know when it comes to men. A bemused smile stretched over his handsome face. "Ah, but I am not late, Highness. Rather, I am the only one who arrived on time. I set out with the rest of the men sent by your father. Needless to say, the other men and I did not get along. They sought to get rid of me. One of them drugged my drink at dinner, which caused me to sleep through a good portion of the next day. By the time I awoke, they had broken camp and were long gone, along with most of the supplies. What a cruel trick to play! Sarah was outraged that men who were supposed to be gentlemen had acted in such a way. That may be, but if it wasn't the case, we might not be having this conversation right now. Perhaps it is not so unfortunate after all." Sarah had nothing to say to this. "Well, it is getting late, and I'd rather not risk overstaying my welcome. Good night to you, Highness. I look forward to seeing you in the morning." With a quick smile and short bow, Lord Michael was gone. Sarah watched his departure, a little shocked. "Can you believe the nerve of him, Tracy, to eavesdrop on me, and to have the audacity to reveal himself, and then just leave like that? Gentlemen are not supposed to behave that way, are they?" Tracy watched her princess wander off and settled down in her bed of hay. No, gentlemen were not supposed to behave that way, and Lord Michael was most certainly not the gentleman. But then again, Sarah did not act the way a princess was meant to act either. Perhaps Lord Michael was right. Maybe fate did have a say in their meeting. Maybe the gods weren't so indifferent after all. All right, we're going to stop there. Woo-hoo. It's cool. So I hope you enjoy this, and I hope you enjoy your weekend, and I hope you enjoy what hopefully is in your mailbox today, considering you haven't said anything yet. So, all right. Mwah.